get going. Looks like we're not having a big turn up today, at least not yet anyway. Yeah. Just you and me and Ramiz. So how's the no self thing going for you?
Oh, that's real interesting. I guess I'm just like in China. I get this feeling, walking along and every once in a while this recognition, like, oh, some this body, this collection of things is just moving around, and then it's just the recognition. But then, the it kind of collapses every once in a while, like in a restaurant. They're especially in this one province. People are just used to noise, and it just I just wanted to like try to block it out, and you just sort of shrink down into this thing trying to keep out the external world.
Yes, yes,
So
yes. So a separation kind of happens, eh?
yeah. I don't i don't i don't know, do you ever get rid of that? I mean, some of it is I noticed, like, language is another big thing, is that the your thoughts, they're like wispy things, but they're words. And then the way your words, like when you're listening to Chinese people, you hardly ever hear the word I.
Mm,
It's just not in their language. And whereas we can hardly say a sentence without saying I, it's
absolutely. Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, they've Chinese have also got this really interesting. Their written language is a visual thing, So whereas our written language is a verbal thing, so it's different in that
right.
way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So personal pronouns are not big there. That's interesting. Yeah. So I wonder if their spoken language somehow reflects their visual written language in that, right? So when they say, oh, I don't know, what's a good example? Uh, they might say for the word taxi, for example, and I'm making this up, but they might, but their language might say paying car or something along that line.
um
So it's more descriptive.
yeah, they're like ch is like a cart vehicle, and there's like a horse-drawn cart would be like a ma ch, or train would be a ho ch, a fire car. And um
Yeah, yeah.
um so
So yeah,
they
even the verbal stuff reflects the image rather
right,
than
right.
a possessive thing. Ours is all about possession, isn't it? Our language. Yeah. And it's interesting. We got, English and a whole lot of European languages, and they all have the same kind of structure, even though they're different. Yeah.
Right, right.
Whereas the Chinese and Japanese, I guess, I don't know much about their language. They it's a different structure. Yeah. Yeah. So although we're locked into using personal pronouns, there is this thing of believing them. Um, and then there's the things like
Yeah.
for example, with that noise situation that you talked about, it it it's like a lot of things will lie dormant until they get triggered. And when they get triggered, then what happens is we do shrink back into the personal pronoun kind of situation, um, until we recognise that that's what's happening, and then it will let go again. Um, it's simply because it's been lying dormant until it gets triggered.
Oh
That's what
yeah.
I call a remnant. There's remnants all over the place that are lying there unknown until something brings them to the surface. Yeah. Um, So when with your experience with that noise in the restaurant, you know, that I was it that I know I imagine it might be, but it's just purely my imagination that shrinking back into the personal was a defensive kind of thing, but it was like it were you there's a we confuse, and again until it's recognized, we confuse the protecting the physical body with the protecting the self kind of thing. So when you were wanting to protect yourself from the intrusion or incursion of that noise, it seemed like it was you were going back into a self to do it, but really it was a physical protection, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, well, I felt like I was losing my hearing, it was that, that loud
Mm,
that I just started feeling like, I gotta,
mm,
you know, keep the senses, protect the sensory organs.
mm.
But I feel like during the day, like when you're doing something, a physical action, there's less of that sense of I as opposed to when you're so just, having a casual walk or you're sitting and thinking, you're um, that sense of I kind of like becomes stronger or um, a thought comes in and you start um, following it, and then until you realize, oh, I don't even really want to be thinking about that, or I'm thinking, or where's that thought coming from? Kind of.
Mm, mm.
Um,
So an interesting question that's kind of a bit of a funny one is what language do you think in? Do you think in I guess your native is some Norwegian and some Scandinavian language, eh?
um, no, not really. That I have that background, but I'm a English speaker.
So you
When
think in English, but
I
you
think
also
in
speak
English.
Chinese, don't you? When you're speaking
Um,
Chinese, do you think in English and translate, or do you think in Chinese?
well, some things, happen just um, you're not translating because it's just like ni hao, you're just
It's
greeting
automatic.
somebody
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it's automatic.
Mm,
But if I had to think about like uh, you know, a complex thing, I want to say, um, where's the store, the store that they sell whatever, I'd have to be
yeah, yeah,
constructing it.
yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
But I worked on Japanese ships. This was like 50 years ago when I was oh, actually more than 50 years ago. And what I found, because I was the only, Western or English speaking person, you do start to like, I remember I was sleeping in my cabin and somebody knocked on the door and I didn't really think about anything, but I immediately responded with Japanese because I was around Japanese people all the
Mm,
time.
yeah.
But I think dreaming is another story. I think, because I was trying to listen to dreams, and there's a lot of verbiage in a dream, just thoughts or words, and they're in English. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So what I said is, it's a bit of a ridiculous question, was because although our really prominent thoughts appear as language, we also have visual and tactile thoughts. You know, there are other kinds of
Mhm.
thoughts that that don't register as language. They register as an impression, like what we see, or like what we feel, or what we hear. Um, so when we hear the sound of a bird, does the word bird come along and attach itself to that sound, or do we just hear a sound that's whatever? Yeah.
I I feel like in dreams for me, so I think everybody's different, but the images are so not clear. They're just like
Impressions, yeah.
almost a mirage, like you can't really see people's faces real clearly. You can't see. I mean, I think maybe some people are different, but that's the way I experience it. It's just the brain is just creating these sort of images that like just
Yeah,
outlines are very
yeah.
um,
If you can imagine somebody looking through the cardboard center of a toilet roll, and that's the way they see the world, like this all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really the way we go around through the world, don't we? We have this kind of central focus business, but there's always this huge outward periphery that's in the corner of our eye that gives us impressions, and we respond to it, but we never actually focus on it. We never actually clarify it,
right, right, right,
unless if something calls us and we look, then we might. But essentially, these impressions still affect us. We still have this. It's still taken in, but it is as an impression much more than as an individual item or person or thing or whatever. Um, and so a lot of that, and dreams are like almost all of it's like that. There's sometimes there's no central focus in a dream. It's just that overwhelming cascade of impressions that are coming and going. Yeah.
right, right.
And when that's happening, there's also no strong center like the eye. The eye is,
Right, right, right.
yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought of it like this before, but it's true that we are educated, we're conditioned to think that sharp focus is some pinnacle that we need to always have, always look forward to chase or something.
Hmm.
Smart people are very focused.
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
Came across a question recently about what do we oh, I forget where it come from actually, but something about uh, is it easier for a very intelligent person to wake up or for less intelligent people to wake up? And I rather suspected that the more intelligent, the more difficult it could be because of that, and that may be the reason. I don't know if that's true.
Because
Yeah.
it could be that um, it's like the absent-minded professor, someone always thinking. It's very hard to just let go of that train of thought of just experiencing instead of
Mm.
um, I I find that I do that even in when I'm dreaming. Like I know when I was a software engineer, I'd be doing programming in my sleep, and even now, like maybe I'm doing some carpentry or something. I'm trying to do like simple adding and subtracting, like the size of something in my sleep, and but I can't do it because that part of my brain is not working very well, and so I get frustrated at these frustration dreams because I'm trying to do something um, that I can't do very well in my sleep.
I wonder if the reason that it's difficult is because, see, again, it's just what triggers here is that the calculation that might be going on in your dream is the whole thing. It's all calculation. There's no you doing it.
Uh,
And now I don't know. So do you,
uh,
in your dream, are you seeing yourself doing it, or are you seeing the calculation on the paper,
um,
or are you seeing
well,
the
more,
numbers? Mm,
I think maybe I'm seeing the numbers and
yeah.
trying to, um, or trying to go through some logical steps, and I get maybe one step, but I can't get to the third step, and then I go back to the beginning, and then I can't um, use that part of my brain, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? And yet, if you were to, and this is all speculation, of course, if you were to, instead of seeing that logical progression through the formulas that you're using, if you were to let that go and just intuit an answer, you could probably go straight to it. But it's the working out of it that gets really difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah. Who knows?
yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, yeah. It's good that you can even remember your dreams in such detail. I can't. Yeah.
Well, I up until say 10 years ago, I didn't even know that I dreamed. I mean, when I was working, you go to bed and you're sleepy and you wake up and you drive to work, and I can't ever remember a dream during that time. And being retired, I dream every night.
Mm. And you remember them now. Yeah.
I remember parts of them, and if I remember a part, then I can kind of reconstruct, a little bit. Um, and then sometimes during the day, I'll say, "Oh yeah, that's what I was dreaming about," or something like that.
Okay, it comes back later. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But
Hello, Irene.
I feel like a lot of waking time is very much like dreamlike.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah, I
the
get that. Yeah, me too. Yeah. But even that, yeah, to analyze that a little bit, the experience here is that I'm in a dream a lot of the time, rather than things that I'm seeing are like I would see them in a dream. It's just that the edge of them is no longer sharp anymore somehow.
uh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. How about you, Irene? Do you remember your dreams?
Well, I actually woke up from a dream and came to this meeting
Well, maybe you're
because it's
still in that dream.
I definitely am definitely in a dream. It's 1:30 in the morning here, and I went to sleep at midnight. I slept for about an hour, and then I had this unpleasant dream, and I woke up, and this was on my calendar, and so here I am.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's good that you can be so flexible. That's brilliant. Yeah.
I don't know that I'm being flexible. I think I'm just dealing with some just stuff that's just I don't even know where to start. I'm just having trouble holding for myself.
Say that. Say I didn't quite get
Yeah,
that. Holding from yourself.
I'm just holding for myself, and I'm just more like, and I don't want to interrupt if Eric's not done, so I can.
Oh, I'm done.
Are you complete?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, just this feeling of just being abandoned. It's a feeling of being abandoned and not having the resources to take care of myself. Like this is like this conditioned helplessness or trauma or aloneness or something that's so painful. And I'm just scrolling and playing cards and just numbing out that way. And this is just really throwing me for a loop.
Mm,
So
yeah.
getting down to some really deep trauma stuff that's unwinding.
And when you say unwinding, it's like it's what's the right word? It's I think lessening. I think progressing. I don't know what the right word is. Does it feel like you're working through it, or does it feel like you're stuck in it?
It feels like I'm paralyzed by it.
Okay.
Just paralyzed by it. And I'm just kind of waiting it out.
Hmm. So the the diversions, the numbing of it, that by activity and keeping yourself busy and so on, that that may be quite appropriate in terms of allowing just enough of it to be felt, to be able to allow it to work out a little bit, or it may be an attempt to not let any of it out, so to speak. Um, what's your thoughts on that? Is obviously you are facing it. I can just even see it in your face that it is right there, right up close.
Yeah.
Um, does it feel like you're working through even little bits of it, or does it feel like you're just freaking out and escaping the whole thing?
It feels so overwhelming that I think maybe I'm just letting in tiny little bits.
Hmm.
But mostly it's just voracious distraction. My brother died, and there was this whole thing that happened in the family, and then
Hmm.
my younger brother, uh, all of his trauma surfaced when I was at the funeral, and he just blamed me for he he felt
Yep, yep, yep.
right, so he put all of his anger on me and was really dumping his anger. And he called the other day, and I saw his name on my phone, and I wasn't ready. I was just trying to just stay peaceful and calm and take care of myself. And so I wasn't ready to talk. So I texted him and I said, I saw that you called. I'm not ready to talk right now. I hope all is well with you. And I got a text message today or yesterday in the evening, and it said something like, I thought your message was a turd. It was some
Mm,
just going after me and saying, I don't want to talk with you right now. And it was just another, and I watched it. I watched how that came in, and I saw very clearly that I had set a boundary. And as soon as I set a boundary, he was gone.
mm,
Right?
mm,
He was saying, I'm gone because I set a
mm.
boundary. And I could see that, but at the same time, it's hitting like abandonment.
Mm, mm. So how did you? So let's say that gift that he offered you about you being the reason for Joe's death, was that
Not
about
not
that?
Joe's death, but that they're for not resolving the issue between us.
Right. Yeah.
That I was to blame for that.
Yes. So what I'm interested in is how did you accept what happened? Did you accept or reject or something else what he was giving you about that?
Uh, no, I was actually responded with equanimity when he first told me that he was angry, and I just held space for it. It was like, I hear you, but this is the way of it, is that, I've reached out to Joe and he's not responding, and I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
It's not a problem here. But
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
big problem for him because I think this whole thing is just recreating my parents' divorce and the unresolved trauma. I
Mm,
just see the whole thing playing out as this unresolved trauma from the divorce. I see all of us impacted by it.
hmm.
And and yeah, and nobody has done any work um, on healing the trauma.
Except
And
you.
I've right, and so but I really see that, there's nothing I can do for him. There's nothing that I can
Yet,
do for
yet,
him
yet,
except take care of myself.
right. But yet his response to you, his rejection or whatever it is, his response to you has hurt you deeply.
It
It,
does.
yes,
It
yeah.
does. So and I wish it didn't, but it does.
Mm. So how does it? That's the thing. You know what? So let's say it's obvious that his problems are his problems, right? And his
Yeah.
problems, and he's projecting some of that out onto you, and he's projecting the rest of it who knows where. But regardless, you know that that's his problem.
Yes.
Yet you, on the surface, you take some of that problem on board. You hurt
Yes.
yourself with that. Yeah.
Yes.
So the reality, of course, is that all he's done is triggered an existing problem for you. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And that existing problem is so deep and so traumatic
Yes.
that here you are in absolute purgatory,
Yeah.
suffering hugely, eh?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mm,
There's so much suffering here right now. It's like, and I
mm.
haven't felt this much suffering in a long, long time. Goes really deep.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
This one
And
just
and
goes really deep.
and it's interesting that you haven't felt it for such a long time because it wasn't triggered. It wasn't at the surface. It's not that it didn't
Right.
exist. It just that
Right.
it was successfully buried for a long, long time.
Yes.
So it's obvious to me that the fact that it is so close to the surface is that you're now in a state to deal with it, to allow it to whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not sure how to do that right now.
Well. There's the big trick, and this is the most difficult one I have to get across to people. The most difficult message is there's nothing you can do, and I'll put "do" as capital letters. Do. There's no effort. There's no willpower. There's no strategy that's going to fix it. Right?
Right.
I heard a beautiful koan actually from Adyashanti this morning. I listened to this koan, and there's a man, and he's up a really, really high tree, and he's holding onto a branch with his teeth, right? And he's hanging by his teeth, and his hands are tied behind his back, and he's getting very tired, and he knows that he can't keep holding on for much longer. And a Zen monk comes along underneath and says, say the one word that will save your life. And the koan is, what's that word? Yeah, and this is you. You're hanging on by your teeth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely hanging on by my teeth.
yeah. And so what can you do? What can that man do? Let's put it out into a third party. What can he do? What's the word?
Be.
Hmm?
Be.
Be. Yeah,
Just be. I mean,
yeah.
what can you do? Just be.
Right.
Be with
There it,
what's present. This is what is. I'm
yeah,
hanging by onto
yeah,
a branch by my teeth. And yeah, and it feels like imminent death.
absolutely. And it appears like you've got two choices. You'll hang on until fatigue takes over, which is like to be going to be about 3 more minutes, or you can let go now. They're the choices, if there's a choice.
Right?
Right. And if he hangs on until fatigue takes over, he dies. If he lets go
Hmm.
now, he dies. But
Right.
if he lets go now, he has 1.7 seconds of being alive, of being saved. If he hangs on until fatigue takes over, he's already dead, isn't he?
Yeah.
He never experiences that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful situation, and so the next koan is, how do you do not doing anything? How do you do not doing? Is it possible
Oh.
to not do?
Is it possible to not do?
Hmm. How do you do
I guess
not
that would
doing?
be, yeah. No, you don't do not doing, you just
You
be.
can't, can you? That's right. You can
No,
only just be, yeah. And
you
what
can
is,
just be.
and let's just look at what is just being. Just being
Yeah.
means total acceptance,
Yeah.
doesn't it? It means
Yeah.
surrender.
Yep.
It means allowing this shit to be there.
Right.
Don't stop it.
I don't know how to not stop it.
There you
I
go.
don't know how to not stop it. It just,
Yeah,
it stops.
yeah.
I don't know how to not.
Yeah,
Tell me how.
yeah. There is no how, is there?
There's,
No.
there's no fucking how. There's, there's just this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
just,
it's crazy, isn't it? It is funny, isn't it? It really is very funny, as well as being painful.
it's both.
Yes.
Oh, oh boy.
And when we accept what appears to be going on the surface, does it also permeate to what's behind it, what's underneath it?
Yeah, it's all
If
of
we
it.
have total acceptance, yes, total acceptance is all that
It's
old
all of it.
shit, all of that other
Yeah,
stuff as well, yeah?
Yeah, for
It is
sure.
the way it is, the way it is, it is the way it is, and it's the only way it can be.
Yeah. It just is feeling like just like I'm trying to hold space for myself, and then it's like kick in the stomach, and it's like, wait. I'm still processing that. Now I got kicked in the stomach again. It just feels like, I feel like very victimized by it too.
Sure.
There's
Yep. Yep.
definitely a victim here.
Yep. And well, you recognize that. That's a big thing. So what if processing it is another way of diverting from it? So what I'm talking about is something radical here. I'm talking about
Yeah,
just
yeah.
just letting the whole thing, the whole muck,
It feels like it's right there. It feels like
yeah,
they're so close. It's like
yes,
it's so close. But yeah, it ends up being just this never-ending suffering. It's
hmm.
it's like I just want to let go and fall.
That's because you want to do it.
I do want to get away from this.
Mm.
I
So
do want to get away from it. So there's this
yeah,
part that really wants to get away from it, and there's this part that really, yeah.
so the part that wants to get away from it isn't recognizing the gift of it.
Right, for sure. Just the pain of it.
Mm.
That I read that the most important question in psychotherapy is I, I heard this the other day is who did you go to for comfort?
Hmm.
Was that a sneeze or a cough?
It was a throat
Uh,
clearing. Yeah,
so who did you go to for comfort? And when I looked to see who I went to for comfort, I went to my dog.
yeah. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Yeah,
I went to my
yeah.
dog for comfort.
And tell me about what happened? What with your dog? Where's what? Tell me about the
Oh,
comfort.
she would get my sadness. Like
And
she could
she
hold
would
space for
just
me.
swallow it all up. Yes, yeah.
She could hold space for me when I couldn't go to anyone else.
Right.
Oh,
And the thing is, she was 100% on board.
yeah, she
Not
was.
not 99, not 98, not 50%, but
Yeah,
100% on board,
yeah,
right? Her whole being, she was you. She was your suffering. She was you, right? That's just the brilliant thing with animals that they're like that. They, wherever they are, whatever, they know how to just be, but they don't do it, do they?
no,
No.
it's just their essence.
Yes. And there is no conditioning. There's no conditions. It's not a
Right.
conditional love. It's not anything like that. You could if horrible image, but you could get up and you could kick the dog and she would still love you 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's not dependent on anything. It's not because you feed her or it's not whatever. It's just that, yeah. Now she's showing you how to be 100%. She's doing it. She's giving that to you, that gift. She wants you to know that it's possible without any intellectualization of it, of course. Just that here it is. Yeah. I love you. I am your love. I am love. Yeah.
yeah.
And what love are you withholding from yourself? You're not giving yourself 100% love, are you? You're only giving yourself so much.
Mm. Yeah, I guess the challenge is in opening to all of it.
No,
No?
no. I'm objecting to the idea that it's a challenge, that it's going to take work.
Oh,
That
I
yeah.
see. It I see no, I really, I am so stuck right here.
Okay,
There's so much
s-
stuckness. I just don't know.
yes. Okay,
I'm just,
fine. That's great. Look, be the stuckness. That's being, isn't it? So when you say just
oh
being,
yeah, 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 being
yeah,
the stuckness.
yeah,
Yeah,
being whatever's here.
yeah,
Yeah, being doesn't imply just good stuff.
right. Of course not.
So if stuckness is what you feel, get into it. Feel it completely. Really, really feel it. And if you can't, feel that.
Well, there's I can see this projection of thought into the future that makes it a whole lot worse. Like that I'm going to be alone and everyone will desert me. And it's playing in the background. And that makes it a whole lot worse because it isn't just what's here.
Mm,
There's this whole projection into the future.
yeah, yeah. But they've
Um,
already deserted you, haven't they?
they have. They're just the family has disbanded. The family
Mm.
has disbanded and everybody's running for cover.
But the family was never banded.
It
Only
wasn't.
only
That's
in
the
somebody's
thing.
imagination. Yeah.
Only in my imagination was there ever a banded family. There wasn't one.
Mm,
That's why I was with the dog. There wasn't.
mm,
There was no safety. It was a zoo. It was a crazy place.
mm. So
So
so so how can you be abandoned?
how can you be abandoned if you were never held?
Mm,
There was nothing but abandonment from the get-go.
yeah.
So
But
what do you
but
do
but
with that?
still, but is there such a thing as not abandoned? What I'm saying is that that was a fantasy right from the beginning.
The fantasy of that there was ever a banding?
Yes.
Yes,
The togetherness that you're now feeling is gone, never
right.
existed.
No, it was just a fantasy.
Mm. A very tantalizing fantasy, of course, because it wasn't there. Because
Yeah,
it wasn't there, there was always this feeling that if it was there, oh, it would be so lovely, wouldn't it? It would be like you and the dog, only with other people, with your family.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I could go my whole there's a part that feels like I could go my whole lifetime without ever connecting to another human being. Like it's so like there's so much hurt with people. I just want to like isolate and protect. But I can't
Oh,
even do that. I can't even do that.
so you want to abandon them?
I want to abandon the whole show. It's like
Okay.
I just want to
Yeah.
abandon the whole show. It's like, you know, uh, yeah, it just feels like the whole that there's this hostility and this unresolved anger. And it's not just in my family, it's in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's in me and it's in the world.
Mm.
Yeah. It just doesn't, it feels so unsafe. I think underneath that, it's just this feeling of just not being safe and that
Mhm.
there's nowhere to find safety. There's nowhere to feel safe.
Have you ever felt safe?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, right from the get-go in the womb, it was like, I mean, I don't want to get into story, but it was the circumstances were pretty pretty dire.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I ever did feel safe.
But you do feel safe with your dog, don't you?
I did with the dog, yeah. And I have felt safety, you know. I mean, I've had extended periods of peace and yeah, just I have felt extended periods of peace. So that's why this is so particularly jolting.
Mm. Mm.
It's not like I haven't known peace and gratitude and yeah,
Mm.
but how but this safety thing I think is really key is that like I can access this place of this space of peace and calm right now.
Mm-hmm. So what takes you out of it?
A story about not being safe and being left alone and deserted
Yeah, let's
and
let's
believing a story.
believing the story. Yeah, not the story itself, but believing the story, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll go out in the world and what will be reflected back to me most recently is other people's unresolved anger, which is clearly pointing here.
Mm.
Up until the time my brother died, I would go out in the world and it was all about connection and fostering connection and recognizing people and, you know, acknowledgement and connection, creating connection everywhere I went. And then since my brother died and this whole family thing hit the fan, it's more I'm seeing people's unresolved anger. You know, I'm seeing road rage, you know, somebody, I went into somebody's lane and they honked appropriately, but then the guy sped up and got in front of me and slammed on his brakes. That's road rage. So,
Mm. Mm.
yeah, and I'm just seeing that. So it's pointing back at me, my bubble of reality.
Mm. Isn't it interesting how the world reflects back at us what we're
Totally,
where we are? Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
And if you took one of those, that bloke who did the road rage thing with you, if you took him and you were able to sit with him and ask him about connection and love, that he would also have that stuff. He would also be
Yeah.
quite a nice, lovable person. Just he just gets triggered like
Yeah.
everybody does. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when it gets reflected back at you, do you take it personally?
How it, well, even though I know that, like when my brother sent the text message that's his stuff, some of it is sticking here, and the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
with the driver. It's some of it is I know intellectually and logically that it's not mine, that driver, but it feels like it's hitting a place that's very helpless to defend itself, or that's very vulnerable, and it's like it still goes in.
Right.
It still
What if
goes
it's
in.
what if the sticky bit is your road rage or your anger about the family or your right? It's so
Yeah,
it's not it appears on the outside that of course it's their stuff that they're reflecting at that they're projecting
right.
to you. And at one level, we can say, of course, it's their stuff, and it's not my stuff. But because we get triggered, that
It's
tells
my
me
stuff
that
too.
it is your stuff. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's where the gift is. That's what the gift that they're offering you, of course.
yeah, yeah.
The opportunity to look at that. Eh? Yeah. Yeah. Jump in, Tyler. Tell us your thoughts since you've been listening to this. He's a young man with lots of wisdom, this bloke.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know, I know. I had
Yeah.
the opportunity to be with Tyler at the last meetup that I attended.
Mm.
I'm sorry, I haven't been paying attention the past 2 minutes.
Mm.
I caught the earlier part about safety and the dog.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, there's no safety.
that really sucks.
No, but there's also no danger.
Oh, there's no danger or no
In
safety, huh?
the, yeah.
Uh, it sounds very esoteric. There's no safety, but there's also no. When you said there's no safety, it was like, oh, okay, I get that. But when you said there's also no danger, yeah, that's right. There is no safety and there really is no danger. Those are just interpretations.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of like what is safety? Safety is a lack of danger. And what's danger? A lack of safety?
Oh, wow. Huh.
That's probably not useful to think about.
Well, I don't know. It feels pretty good. Feels pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's useful. Yeah.
I do too. It reminds me of Angelo saying silence or sound is innocent. when Angelo said sound is innocent, it just opened up a whole realm of possibility of I never heard sound the same way. And so what I'm hearing you say is that, you know, danger and safety, they don't really exist. They're just interpretations. They're just overlays. You know, hanging from the branch, is that dangerous? I don't know. It's hanging from a branch.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're in a position where, you can die, is that
Yeah.
dangerous?
Well, it certainly feels that way, doesn't it?
It can.
It can. Well, it feels like what I'm experiencing is worse than anything. That the worse than anything is just being in that threat and feeling the threat. You know, death
What?
is letting go.
Yeah.
Death is letting go, but feeling the threat and just trying to avoid the threat is just exhausting. It's a full-time job right now.
But that's okay, because maybe. Okay, never mind. Um, what's the threat? The same thing
Threat
can be.
it's the lack of safety is the threat.
I mean, the same can be said about death. Death isn't that bad. I mean, nothing, it's nothing. It's literally nothing. But you can spend your time avoiding it, and that feels really bad.
Yeah, avoiding anything feels really bad,
Yeah. But when you
you
avoid
know.
death, it's just because you're avoiding the. Oh, I said yeah. When you're avoiding death, it's also just because you're avoiding. You see death as a threat,
Right.
and you avoid it.
Yeah.
It's probably not so bad when you die.
Right, right. And this lack of safety, uh lack of safety, it so sounds so strange.
What's the threat that you're avoiding?
Uh it's it kind of goes back to I'm remembering in childhood, I watched King Kong, and after watching King Kong, I was always threatened. I was always looking for where to hide. When King Kong would come, he was going to come and he was going to reach in my bedroom window and get me. And there was nowhere, it's like I was consumed with where to hide. Where do I hide to be safe? And so the feels right now like there's nowhere to hide.
Hide from what?
The threat.
Which is.
The gorilla arm coming through the window.
I it's it's this huge threat. It's this huge threat of I'm being unprotected. Unprotected from what?
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's being unprotected. It's like this very primal kind of, like when you've lost the tribe and, gosh, you can't exist outside of the tribe. No matter how fucked up the tribe is, it's like when you go it on your own, when you go it alone, it's your chances of being annihilated are very great. And that's what it feels like.
And everybody in the tribe feels that, but nobody's been out there by themselves to know.
Yeah, but I'm out there without a tribe. That's what it feels like.
Oh, okay.
Would you say that the fact that you're not in the tribe is much scarier than what's there when you're not in the tribe?
Well, even the pretense of being in a tribe is soothing, but when there's no more pretense of a tribe, what have you got? What do you have? That's like annihilation.
What is there outside tribe that makes it scary to be outside?
Tigers, King Kong,
Not right now, right?
all kinds of things. There's all kinds of things. There's old age, there's illness, there's all these things that, boy, they're all being perceived as threats. Yeah. Just existence itself in this dream is, my husband is 80 years old and he's in poor health. And then there's this annihilation of the disbanding of the never banded tribe. And then my husband not being well. And then you know, I just feel the impending kind of, there's no one to hold on to, and there's nothing to hold on to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I just want to be there with that there's nothing to hold on to and there's no one to hold on to. And what then?
But isn't it true that the only reason to hold on is because of fear of what happens when you let go?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's like I love the closed loop that Tyler brought up about safety and threat.
Yeah.
But there would be no safety if there was no threat, and there would be no threat if there was no safety.
Yeah.
One relies on the other. They both rely. It's a closed loop,
Yes.
and the only way out of that loop, the only not way out of that loop, the only thing outside of that loop is a fantasy about the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anybody in the tribe fears being ostracized and put outside the tribe. Anybody outside of the tribe just wants to be back in the tribe. And neither of them are even aware of where they are. They're so consumed with what the opposite is always.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure that analyzing a fear or a feeling really helps much. I think like I picture, like if someone has a fear of heights, there's an uncomfortable feeling that is involved walking across the bridge, you know, knowing that you can't fall. But there is this feeling when you're in that height, like an anxiousness that anyone telling you what's there to fear of, but it's a physical anxiousness that who knows where it comes from. I'm not sure that analyzing it is really can really help things like that. You know, I think that like with something, when some anxiety or whatever happens like that, there's it's just anxiety, and it understanding the cause of it doesn't usually really help very much.
Well, the other morning I woke up and there was a certain like a like the body was vibrating. There was a certain vibration going on when I woke up. And I could see that if I didn't pay attention to it and just carried on, that I would, it would result in being anxious. And so I just stopped and looked into it and felt it, and then it just disappeared. And I think this is the same kind of thing of it just feels so old and deep and um but as soon as I go to look for where that is now, I don't find it. All I find right here is just this.
Do you fear death?
Yeah. Um, it there's a part that does, and there's a part that doesn't. So I both are true at different times.
Do you fear meaninglessness?
Yes,
The fact that
definitely.
all of your actions are futile. Everything we can do is impermanent.
Yes. Yeah, the meaninglessness definitely is disturbing, and being alone with meaningless. There's the two things are coupled. Feeling alone is one thing, but feeling alone in a meaningless context, it's like the worst. It feels like the worst thing you could ever experience.
Can I? Yeah, I agree. That's existential dread. It's pretty funky feeling.
Yeah,
Uh, can I offer a rephrasing of that?
yeah,
It's being someone in a meaningless context is terrifying because you're the only thing that's there.
yes.
That,
Yeah,
yeah, I think everyone goes through that. on this journey thing because feeling like you're someone is one of the most foundational things,
Yeah.
and it falls later than a lot of other things that we see to be meaningless. So it can feel pretty scary, as if you're completely alone. But you're not completely alone. There isn't even you. But it's not that
Right.
hearing this will help you cope with it.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just, it is the most primal, it's the most intense emotion, if you can even call it an emotion,
Right.
that I've experienced.
So what so how did that fall away for you?
How do you think?
Well, you got beyond, or you just recognized what was always true, which was that there wasn't a separate someone. But there's still the felt sense, and there's still the, I mean, I can't seem to get beyond the conditioned sense of that there's someone here, even though I've looked and I see that there isn't. There's an Irene-ness or a sense of, but there isn't a centrality to it.
Yeah, you kind of can intuitively sense that this is not something you can get through with any kind of intellectual recognition or knowledge. It's not something that you can know either. So what can you do?
Keep away from King Kong's hand when it comes through the window. What can you do? There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do.
You see, King Kong, his hand coming through the window, he just wants to tickle you under the chin.
He's not such a bad thing when thank you for reminding me. He wasn't so bad. He was really, you know, he was very gentle with that lady, wasn't he? He protected
Mhm,
her.
mhm.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to harm her. I forget that.
Keeping away from King Kong's hand is like trying to hold on to the tree branch.
Huh. Yeah. Well, my teeth are getting sore from holding on to that branch with my teeth.
Mm. So there's a dilemma coming up because somehow you know that if you keep hanging on, fatigue is going to do what you and it's inevitable. So surely the
Just
best thing is to let go now. That's an interesting concept, isn't it? Now. So is now sandwiched between the past and the future? Is it a time now?
I guess that is the way it's being perceived.
Yeah.
Although I have experience now without a past and a future as well.
Mm, mm,
But right now it is sandwiched
mm.
because there's the illusion of a someone here who exists in time.
I question that. There are things that give you that impression.
Yeah.
You know about them, don't you?
Yeah. Like sensations coupled with thoughts and
Yeah, yeah.
a loop and yeah. Yeah. Well, there's nothing to do then. I think let's not go there. Um, I appreciate this conversation. I don't know that there's anything else to do other than just let things take their course. Let's just let things happen the way they do and just relax and
Mm.
I
Can
don't
you
know what
do that?
else. Yeah,
No, you can't.
I can't.
Well, you can't
I
not,
can.
but you can't. You can and you can't. No, it's not possible to do that. It's not possible not to do that either. And one doesn't follow the other. They both exist at the same time.
Hmm.
Yeah. But the idea of letting things happen as they're going to happen is it's a beautiful idea.
Well, what else?
So if it happens, it's great, and if it doesn't happen, it's also
Exactly.
great. It's
Yeah,
also great. Yeah.
just this. I mean, however this is, you know. I asked, I have not had the house to myself. I've not been able to be alone in the house for a few years now because my husband doesn't drive anymore and he doesn't really uh, have activities or friends that he goes out with or anything. And I asked him today if I could take him to the senior center for a few hours because I just wanted to have the house to myself. I just wanted to have the space here in the house just to feel what it's like just to not be reflecting off of anyone in the house. Yeah.
You wanted for a moment to have no tribe?
No drive at all. The
Just for a
safety
moment.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
just for a little while. Yeah.
Oh, look, I get that. So that solitude is so
Yeah,
valuable, isn't it? Yeah.
it is. And just something about being in my own home with that, obviously there's just it's just like a yearning that's been here of just having this whole house just with no one else in it for just a little bit. So,
Mm. So how do you stupid? As soon as I say it, it's almost like I'm going to get tongue tied. I can't say anything. So, but I say, how do you just float with whatever gets offered by life, by this, by whatever? Is it possible? Can you conceive? Can you have a fantasy that you are just that brings me to something I experienced recently. It's, I'm a speck of dust being blown around by a breeze, a gentle breeze carrying me, I know not where. It's and
mm,
it's just supporting me and giving me a sense of movement, and there is just that. flowing that I am. Can you
Yeah,
feel that fantasy?
oh, totally. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, totally. And it's a deep trust in life, isn't it? To
That's
just a deep
yeah.
trust. Yeah.
It's not experienced as that, but it's described as that. But there is no thought of trust or its
Oh.
opposite, or safety or its opposite, or threat
Mm-hmm.
or its no thought of those things. There is just this wonder at the landscape is amazing. You know what I can experience is just so beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. I just got hit by a ray of, look, you can see it on the side of my face.
Oh
I just got
yeah.
hit by a ray
Nice.
of sunlight that came through the window when I said that. Wow.
So
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. A sparkling jewel. And I perceive you now in my fantasy, but I perceive you now, a bit like that ray of sunlight. It's just, you're just, you feel to me so wonderfully peaceful and relaxed
Mm.
and free and absolutely beautiful and lovely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel peaceful. Yeah, it has been elusive though these last few days, so it's nice to just rest in that.
Mm.
Yeah. I was listening to a conversation between Z-Dog and I think that's his name, and Angelo after the 7-day retreat, the silent retreat last year. And they were both just sitting and yeah, they were just pointing to just doing some lovely pointing and sitting in front of on a porch and then Z-Dog took the camera, the phone, and showed what they were looking at and the just how lovely everything was. But I could see that there's an opportunity, and I guess I just don't want to leave well, leave the planet without really taking advantage of the opportunity to to let go of that branch totally. But I guess I see when I observe, it looks like Angelo, for example, doesn't look like there's much stickiness for him anymore. Whereas other people I see, okay, yeah, it's like a coming and going. It's like a fluidity between, right, being triggered by something or lightly triggered or uh, it doesn't. And I wanted to ask the two of you, is it Is it more like once, like I can access peace, a sense of peace, all, almost any time. If I stop, it's always there, right? If I stop and look, it's always there. But this, the way they were talking, it felt more like they're open to a landscape ongoingly that is not so much available to me in the way that it is to them. And so I'm just wondering, um, like I feel like I have a taste of it, but that there's so much more available than this taste. And I just wonder how it is for the two of you in terms of once you entered, say, that landscape of no self, uh, is it a on and off kind of thing, or is it just completely, what is it like for you in that way?
Vince,
Or
you
does that
wanna?
question not make sense? I don't even know if that makes sense, really.
There's no ongoing sense of peace. It's and there's nothing that they experience that you don't experience. It's more like things get less sticky over time, but
Mhm.
even when there's something sticky, it's still a part of the whole thing. I don't know.
Hmm. I get it. Yeah. I went for a walk the other day with some friends, and I like being barefooted. I enjoy being barefooted in summer, particularly. In winter, I tend to wear shoes more. But I walked along, and we were walking. They live quite close to the beach. There's a rocky headland and a beach and water, and we were walking past that, and I was walking in my bare feet along the smooth bitumen road as I was walking, and then we came to the end of the road and headed off into the bush, and within a few meters, I was walking on sharp gravel. It was hurting my feet. Yeah. The landscape isn't all smooth bitumen road. There is there is the stuff that hurts your feet. It's there. I've recently recognized that one of the reasons why I like doing these groups is because that's where I feel the most peace and also great emotion. I'm hooked on the emotion. Feel all sorts of emotion doing this. Um, but when it's finished, I'll go out and be with my wife, and the chances of her triggering me to feel anger are pretty high. That will happen. It does happen historically. But there's no stickiness in it, so to speak. It dissipates pretty quickly when it's seen to happen, but it
Mhm.
still does happen. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and most of my day, every day out there, dealing with other people, dealing with their what how to say it, issues, that, or being just, it's a bit like the landscape, a bit like the there's the smooth bitumen, and then there's the stuff that hurts my feet. It's all there. It's all part of it. There's no place, so even though it might have seemed like um, Angelo and his friend were always walking on bitumen road, I'll bet you they don't. I'll bet you they come across stuff that hurts their feet too. But they don't complain about it. They just go and put shoes on. Just yeah, yeah. There's no all good or all bad. It's every variety of everything all the time. And I wasn't aware of my feet while I was walking along on the bitumen, but boy, golly, I was aware of my feet when I got to the rough stuff.
Right.
And that I had an appreciation for feet and how tender they were. Yeah. See, isn't it amazing and wonderful that in spite of everything you've been through, here you are. Absolutely, here you are, looking great, feeling great. Yeah.
It is. It really does feel very much like a dream.
Mhm. I love the. I love to. I like to describe life as wonderful, and by that I mean wonderful. If you double L, full of wonder. It is, and it's not hard to imagine how there is wonder in the shit that turns up, as well as in the amazing and beautiful stuff. It's a wonder.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, there it is. And so what I say to people is, when we wake up, we become we have access to the full range of human emotions or human experience. The full range.
Yeah.
We don't, most people put a lid on a lot of stuff, and they only want to experience a limited range of that. But it's absolutely amazing that we can feel the full range and be okay with that.
Yeah.
So before I open my mouth and say that word that can save my life, I can feel, the pain of hanging on, the tension, and I can experience the fantasy of what it will be like to let go and hit the ground and splat and all of that. And then I can experience the wonder of saying, and when I first heard that koan, the word that came to my mind was 1.7 seconds of thank you. Mm.
Mm. Mm.
Well, you're going to have some great dreams when you go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's a bit of a thing with, like, I don't know if Angelo was doing that or not, but we often, part of the reason why as seekers we think we develop the expectation of eternal bliss and so on is because we keep hearing people's awakening stories, and that's it. We don't hear what follows. We only hear about that, and they all run together, and it gives us the impression that it's all nirvana, but
Yeah.
it's all of reality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you as well.
Mhm. So, Irene, have you went through LUs at some point in the past,
No,
did you? No, you didn't?
no.
No, okay. Um,
I went to register yesterday and I filled out the form and answered the questions. And then it said that I had forgotten something, and I went back to do the thing that it said I had forgotten, and then the whole thing disappeared.
yeah. Yeah, they're having trouble with the website at the moment. It's
I was
being
like, oh,
attacked, I think.
I guess I guess I'm not signing up today.
Mm, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the value of signing up is something I went through with Tyler recently. Do sign up and let me know when you do, because you'll go through super fast and as well. But the brilliant opportunity to be able to guide other people is there when you do that, and I reckon that paying it forward is one of the juiciest, beautiful, excellent things that can happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So you can bring great peace and equanimity to other seekers given the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. Yeah. So do persist. I'd love to see you there and doing that. Yeah. And
Oh,
it will
thank
help
you.
you deepen as well. You'll definitely deepen doing it. It
Yeah.
certainly did for me. Yeah. Yeah.
How long have you been doing it, Vince?
Since 2011. So I guess that's 13 years. Mm.
About 13 years, yeah. How long have you been doing it, Tyler, through LU? Well, you're just
Since
starting. 6 years?
yesterday. No, yesterday, since yesterday.
Right, you now can guide others.
Yeah, I didn't go through the process, but
Oh, you didn't.
yesterday.
So nobody led, you were not, you didn't sign up and go through the process of being guided?
I signed up, but they told me to go away.
Ah,
Yeah.
So you can when the website behaves itself, you can access all those guidings and you can have a look if you want,
take a
if you're
look.
interested.
Great.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but Tyler, I woke up somewhere else. I don't know his history or where or whatever, but he woke up just like you. He woke up somewhere else, and uh, it was really a formality just to take him through so that he could guide because he
Mm,
expressed an interest in doing that.
mm-hmm,
And a lot of people will. I mean, there's always whew, there is often a dozen or up to 30 people waiting for a guide because there's just not enough guides to help them. Um, so it's a yeah. thousands have been through LUs in the time I've been there, which was pretty. I was there within a couple of months of them starting up, actually, just quite by coincidence. And I didn't go through either. I wasn't guided at LU. I woke up in a different way. But the opportunity to guide has just been so good, really, really good. Yeah. Yeah. Highly recommended.
Great, thank you.
Something else you mentioned earlier that I thought I mean, a lot of the stuff I tell you, I know you already know, you know, so it's just, yeah, but of course, meaning and purpose are constructs, you know, social constructs. So different societies have different ideas of what meaning is, or a different idea of what purpose is in life. But if you go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or not so much a psychiatrist, but a psychologist, their whole purpose in life is to give you meaning and purpose, to help you to find that, because that changes things. And yet here is the irony, is that we recognize that there isn't any such thing as actual, separate, inherent meaning or purpose in anything. It's all construct. And yet the very meaning is the meaningless of it. So it's a bit of a funny one, yeah. But yeah, the beauty of it is not being compelled to go in a particular direction. And that's why it's called, sometimes called liberation, because we're liberated from the social pressures to behave in a certain way. So it's a paradox to say that there is no meaning and there is no purpose, yet that is the meaning and purpose. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't feel meaningless or purposeless, you know, and yet I could never define them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say, you know, you were saying about not having a connection with anybody. I feel so connected to you. It's like, wow, that's
Yeah, I shouldn't say, you know, it's not that I don't see, I feel a deep connection to you as well, and to Tyler, and it's not that I don't feel connected. It's that I don't feel attached.
okay. Yes.
That's different.
Yeah.
Like I feel more attached to my husband. I felt more attached to my family, but it's not connected. It's attached. Yeah, no, I feel totally connected with you.
Great.
It's so funny. I never recognized that mostly what I feel is attached, and I'm losing the attachments, not the connection. Yeah.
Is anyone with their cameras off here? Hi, Bianca.
I got a lot of questions from Tyler.
I saw them.
And I thought back to when Vince asked me a question about questions. So, so you said, I wonder if these questions constrict you into being something that you are not. And when I read this, there was a sharp, short inhale. Just the first part. Does this question constrict you?
And your answer was?
I just described this short, sharp inhale. But there is something there. Maybe because every question is asked with words, and words are concepts. And when they constrict my answer into the same concepts, how can I answer without concepts?
Would there be anything to ask without concepts?
On the other hand, concepts point to something. That is not a concept. The other thing Tyler you said about looking for real or unreal truth and false. And with this, I had have an answer, and it appeared very clearly that the only truth I am interested in is being true to myself.
And how can you be true to yourself?
Being honest.
But to be honest, you have to be telling the truth, right?
Well, if I say there was a short, sharp inhale, this is how I remember it. It's my truth.
Okay.
Would your truth be the short, sharp inhale, or would the truth be what that means?
What that means is not a truth, but to say, well, if it means something to me, then the truth is it means something to me.
If you tell me something that you believe is true, and I tell you I don't believe you, it's not true. Is that thing true? Is there any real truth, or is it just what you believe to be true?
There is no real truth.
So what are you looking for if you're not looking for the truth?
As I said, I'm looking for being true to myself.
You're already true to yourself.
Oh, I have a complicated mind that likes to deceive itself.
Who has a complicated mind?
It's just a way of saying it.
Is there anything here that's not the mind and not the senses?
Who knows?
You say who knows? You say who knows because you can't find one, right? So you can't say yes. But you can't say no because you think maybe there is.
I just don't want to go into philosophizing, but the first answer I usually give is, how do you define mind and how do you define senses? Then we can talk.
Though they don't exist, they don't really exist, but let's use the definition that the mind is thoughts and the senses are the senses. Is there anything here that's not any of those things?
Being aware.
Being aware, where is that?
Not in any specific place. Or everywhere here. Stupid answers.
Stupid questions. Is there If I asked you that question and you had no thoughts, would you be able to tell me that there is being aware?
I don't think I can't use words without thinking.
inside your five senses, is there being aware?
It's it's different than senses.
It's different than senses. What else is different from senses?
Mhm. I don't know how to answer it.
Well, thought is different from senses, right? In our
From
definition.
five senses.
Yeah, in our definition, thought is different from the five senses. Would you say that being aware is more of part of the five senses or more a part of thought? Or is it its own thing?
It feels like it's something. I don't know. It's like it's above senses and above thoughts. Or below. It's just a word.
Where do you look for that answer when I ask you that question?
I would call it a mind sense.
So you say you look for the sense of being aware in the mind sense. What does that tell you?
I don't think it tells me anything.
If you have no mind, can you be aware?
That's making something out of a concept.
It's okay, just play along. If you have no mind, can you be aware?
What does it even point to?
It's just a yes or no question.
No.
No, right? So where is being aware?
In the mind.
When you're in deep sleep, do you have thoughts? Do you have the mind active?
I have no idea.
Which is a no, right? Because if it was active, you would know. So in that same time,
Well, it's hard to tell anything about deep sleep because it always comes together with shallow dreams, with dreaming. And when I wake up, I have a sense of time passed.
okay.
And if I'm in deep sleep and there is a ringing, or if someone cuts my belly open, then I awake. So there is some kind of awareness. If I'm under general anesthesia, then I won't wake up when the clock rings. So
Have you ever been under anesthesia?
Yes.
So they put the mask on, and then you breathe, and then suddenly you wake up in another room, right?
Yes, and there is no sense of time passed.
Yes. So that is what deep sleep feels like when there's no dreams or anything.
Then I do not exist.
But before we talk about you, let's talk about being aware. So being aware is in the mind, yeah? Quoting your words.
Yeah, with a qualifier.
And when there's no mind, there's also no being aware. I'm asking you that question, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So can being aware be separate from the mind sense?
I don't find any example of that.
Because it's never been that way, right? You've never had being aware without the mind. You've never had the mind without being aware.
I never had anything without being aware.
So when two things are separate, you can have one without the other, or you can have the other without the first one. But you're telling me that you can't have being aware without the mind sense. That you can't have anything without being aware.
I don't agree.
Okay.
Things can be connected, but not the same. Like you can't have one side of a coin without the other, but it doesn't make two sides the same.
But are they part of the same coin?
Yes?
So are they separate, or do we just think that they're separate? Where is the separation between the two sides of the coin?
Do we just think that they are not separate?
I don't think that they're not separate. I don't think anything about them.
Uh-huh. That's why questions are so constricting.
Well, I would like to see you explore this sense of being aware more and being curious about what it really is. Yeah,
It is all that I have been doing.
I see.
Didn't get me nowhere.
Where do you want to go? What will be different when you have what you want, which I don't know what you want.
I feel there is something that wants to be expressed. And I will have it expressed.
Do you express what you want to express now? No? Why not?
Because it keeps on eluding me.
What is it that keeps on eluding you? What are you looking for that you can't find?
If I could put it in words, then I would express it. But I can't put it in words, therefore I can't express it.
But are you saying that it's there, but
I
you
can
can't?
feel it.
Then how is it eluding you if it's there?
Because I can feel it somewhere, but I can't get a grasp on it.
In other words, you believe that there's something there and you can't get a grasp of it. Can you recognize that that's a thought?
Before the thought, there is a feeling.
Do you get that in any feeling, there's no sense of anything being anywhere or anything even existing? And it takes thought to create that concept.
Yes?
So this sense that you have of it feeling, of it being there, even before you put this into words and express it as it being there, you already have the sense that it's there. And what I'm telling you is that the sense that it's there is a thought. Can you recognize that thought? Because there's nowhere without thought.
Yes, it is a thought. It's a very commonly shared thought.
Very what thought? Sorry?
So, commonly shared thought.
Yeah, commonly shared thought. Can something exist without thinking about it?
Yes?
Can you give me an example?
Well, if I sense something but do not think about it.
If you notice something Would you say that that's a thought?
Mm. Being aware of what?
Sorry, what?
Is being aware of what?
Well, what's not a thought?
And then we come back to how do you define?
No, but yes. The answer is yes. Being aware of being aware is a thought. Even, I mean, in our definition, awareness, the I am sense, you can't have it without the mind. I want to ask again, can something exist without thought? If so, what, if anything?
Well, if you use this definition of a thought, then yes, it will be said that everything is a thought.
What about this
No.
water bottle? Does the water
Yeah,
bottle exist?
in my experience now, this exists.
Right. It exists as an object, right?
As an object in my thoughts. Huh?
Yeah. Outside of your thoughts, you have the color blue, some shapes.
The color blue is in my thoughts.
Yeah, that's also in your thoughts. You just have whatever is there. So you said something earlier like, with this definition, everything is a thought. I have a feeling you said that because you saw that existing or not existing is a thought. Do you see that?
This existing or not existing is a thought?
Yes.
No, haven't seen it. Or we have a different definition of existing.
I think we both know what existing means. Yeah.
It's the
Quite
same as being aware of something.
being what something?
Being aware of something, then
Mm-hmm.
it exists.
Well, when you're aware of it, does it already exist? Or it's only when you think that it exists that it exists?
When I'm aware,
Basically, let's use the visual field. When whatever you're seeing is there, and you don't have a thought about it, and I ask you the question, does what you're seeing exist or not exist? Where must you look to find the answer?
Well, as you said, in the visual field.
But in the visual field, does it tell you if it exists or it doesn't exist? So now look at, you don't even have to look, see what you see.
Mm-hmm.
Does it exist?
It exists in my visual field.
Where did you have to check to find that answer?
In the visual field.
So the visual field told you that what you're seeing exists? Did you find that information in the visual field? Let's try again. Try and slow down the process a bit. Just see what you see. Does it exist? Now I want you to answer my question and notice where you go to look for the answer. Does what you're seeing exist?
That is such a convoluted question.
On what question?
Does what you are seeing exist?
Yes. Does what you're seeing exist?
It's like saying, it is like asking, does what exists exist?
Okay. Just give me a yes or no.
It's just, it can't,
It's just a yes or no question. Does what you're seeing exist?
it's a nonsense question.
Is it because the answer is obvious?
Because the question is tautological.
Vince, you're muted.
The frustration got me. I had to jump in. So what you just said, Bianca, that's your answer. What did you just say?
When I said the question is nonsense because it is tautological.
Total logical. There's your answer. Total logical. What is logical?
Not. I said it's the same what I said before. It's a question. Does what exists exist?
No.
Of
So
course, yes, of course it exists because
only in logic. Only in logic. What exists for you when you're looking is your experience of looking. The idea that there's something there can only be in thought.
You just said is what exists is the experience of looking.
Yes, that's it. That's the only thing that exists for you is the experience of looking.
Yes, yes, of
But I don't
course.
think that exists either in the experience of looking. It's just,
Can you repeat?
no, yeah, I don't agree, Vince, that the experience of you looking exists. Because where do you have to look to find that answer?
Oh, okay. Of course, I look in memory for the memory of the experience.
Okay, let's try this one more time, Bianca. Does what you're seeing exist? It's just a yes or no question. Or you can tell me it's a shit question. That's a valid answer. Just how does it feel to you?
It feels so much in my face. Like I don't have to look anywhere. In fact, what I'm looking is just for translation of the question, then translation of the answer.
So the answer is very obvious to you, but I didn't catch your answer. Is that a yes or a no? Does what you're seeing exist? Yes?
Yes,
Okay. Does a yes come from what you're seeing, or does it come from your mind?
the yes, the answer yes is already it's a translation
It's a translation of
to
a
the
thought.
language of thoughts.
No, not the language of thought, but from a thought into a verbal thought that you can communicate with me.
Mhm.
Do you get that you can have thoughts without language?
Yeah,
Yeah. So when I ask you if what you're seeing exists, the sense that you know the answer to the question, the sense that yes, what I'm seeing exists, in the sense that it's obvious, just the sense of it, even before you think of the word yes. I'm saying that those senses can only exist in the mind, and that if you were mentally impaired, you could not have a single thought, verbal or non-verbal. When I ask you if what you're seeing exists, you wouldn't be able to answer the question. You wouldn't have a sense of feeling that there's an answer because it's just.
uh, I wouldn't be able to answer. I wouldn't be able to translate uh, the existence to meaning.
No, not that you wouldn't be able to translate the existence to meaning. The existence is already a thought. You wouldn't have the sense that it exists. You wouldn't know that it exists.
I can't imagine it. Having no sense of existence.
That's okay. But what I want you to recognize is that when I ask you that question and you say yes, you are translating the thought of the sense that it exists into the word yes to answer the question. But the sense that it exists, is that sense in what you're seeing? Or is that sense in the mind?
Whatever I answer will be inaccurate.
But we can make the concession. We can make the strange definition that there is visual information and there is mental information. And you definitely have a sense of something existing because you can answer my question. So my question is, does the sense of something existing, does the sense of what you're seeing existing, does that sense exist? Do you know that sense from visual information or from mental information? Does your vision tell you anything about its existence? Or does the mind interpret what you're seeing as having inherent existence?
Oh my. What is this word you used? Concession?
Yeah.
It feels like it's always to say anything, I have to make concessions.
Yes. To say anything, we have to make concessions because we are translating senses of something into verbal thought. But I think you've made the distinction that anything that's not language is not a thought. But I want to offer you the perspective to see that there are some things that you feel so strongly to be real that can just be more subtle thought that has not been translated into language yet.
But anything that exists is a thought. And it's a thought, so what? It doesn't imply anything about existence.
Well, it tells us that existence is a concept.
Oh. No.
Not? Yeah, so that's the sticky part. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's where you should hit with your inquiry. Inquire about existence. You know, things like, where is existence?
It's not like, for me, it's the most difficult thing is I inquired, but I can't express it and I can't communicate with you.
You don't have to communicate it with me.
You ask questions.
Okay, then let me ask if what my interpretation is accurate, okay? My interpretation is you feel, you believe that existence is not a concept. You believe that things exist without any concept or thought. Is that accurate?
Depends on your definition of a thought. So, excuse me for a moment, just a minute.
What do you think, Vince?
I think I would firstly I think it's valuable to distinguish between the concept of the absolute and the experience of the relative. So it's so if we say does it have any inherent objective existence, then I would have to say we can't know that. It's not possible to know that. So what we're really talking about is the relative. We're talking about from the perspective of this organism.
When you
And
say that,
mm,
when you say that we can't know if something really exists, are you assuming that things can exist or not exist?
I'm saying I don't know. I'm saying it's possible that there's something has an objective existence. It may or may not. Right. I also recognise that
What I'm pointing to here is that objective existence is a thought.
yes, it can only be a concept for me. Yeah, for sure. I agree. Yeah.
Yes. So
But it's also
even
something I can't know about. It's not possible because I'm limited by my experience.
yes,
So
but
a tree is not a tree. What a tree is whatever experience I have of it. There's color, there's shape, there's form. I might go and touch it, but there's only touch. So it's only whatever comes in through my senses. And I would include my thoughts as one of my senses. I would say that because I respond to my thoughts as I respond to my physical senses, it's like just another sense, right?
yeah,
So no matter what I mean, the apparent solidity of a tree is a concept, right? What I have is a sense of touch when I touch it, but I only have a sense of touch. I only have the sensation of my fingertips, for example. Um,
yeah.
the it's an assumption that I'm touching something. All I have is a sensation.
But I'm saying that it's also an assumption that the sensation, not that it's an assumption, but saying that the sensation exists accepts the prior assumption that existence or non-existence exists as a separate absolute thing that things can be without being a concept in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't know that. I can only conceptualize it.
Yeah.
Well,
we need to look at that a bit more. That was a bit convoluted there. Yeah, go on.
Hi, Bianca.
so if you if you say that all of this is a thought, then a thought, then thoughts exist.
No,
If you call it all mind, then mind exists. Whatever you called all this,
no,
it
I'm not saying
exists.
all this exists or it doesn't exist. I'm saying it's worth the investigation into existence. That even asking if something exists or doesn't exist, or concluding that it exists or doesn't exist, is already a thought game.
Mm.
It's already in your mind.
Every question and answer is a mind game.
Yeah.
But
So that's all there is. Mind games, nothing else.
Yeah, but you can't say that it is without referring to the mind.
but it
Mm.
what it get rid of what exists. It's right in my face.
Now, what's in your face is an experience of, and again, we're conceptualizing to say it's an experience of seeing, it's an experience of color or experience of shape. That's in your face, but that's the words we use to describe that are just words. They're not what it is. What it actually is beyond words, beyond thoughts. But we don't know that. We can't describe it or express it. Or can we even experience it without that? That's what you're getting at, Tyler?
Yeah, you can.
And we do all the
even
time. You
even
experience, go on.
even when you say it is
Yeah. There's no such thing
is
as is. There's no
is
such thing as is or isn't, or be or not be. That's the
but
first.
it is.
Why is it?
There's no why. It just is.
That's what a lot of Christians would tell you about God.
I
There's
don't
no
care.
why. There's no why. Of course there's God. Of course it is. There's no why. I'm saying if you can't prove it, how do you know? So like the whole question, why is there something instead of nothing? Well, how do you know there's something instead of nothing? The whole point of this is every question you ask comes from the mind and you answer back with the mind. Everything that you try to tell me you experience that is not your physical senses is a thought. It's part of your mind, including the sense of being aware, including the sense that awareness or anything exists somewhere and you can't find it. The sense that something exists somewhere and you can't find it, you think that that's a feeling, that's not a thought. But that's another thought that can only exist when you assume that there is. that there is anything you can't know that there's anything without thinking about it and believing the thought.
I can't do otherwise.
That's a thought. And Irene, this is what you were asking about earlier, actually, when you talked about Angelo after the 7-day silent retreat. I've seen that it's what they call presence, because you can't talk about it without giving a name to it. Something very experienceable, if you can say that, that you can experience without the belief that there is.
So are you saying that presence is the experience without thought, without going through thought? It's the direct knowing? Is that how you would? No.
Presence is a word that they use to describe that's it.
But it seems like what I say when I say is.
But before it is, it's not a state of no thought, it's a state of no belief. It's not a state. This is all just words.
Thoughts here are that we've jumped into the deep end of the pool here with this stuff.
Yeah.
And we as humans tend to make something out of nothing. That's a gross way to put it, but that's the way it is. So we actually create the world with our thoughts, and then we respond to that like it was real, like it was something. But it's a creation, and that creation doesn't have existence, but we do respond to it like it has. But that's it. Yeah. But before that, we've got to untangle the tangle of our thoughts, the experience that is created by our thoughts at a grosser level. Once we untangle those a little bit, then we can move on to the other stuff.
The reason I
Yeah,
brought this up for Bianca is because it felt like me, it felt to me like
Yeah, I get that. I remember it.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think this is relevant for her
Okay.
because she seems to see so clearly a lot of beliefs that others don't yet. Still feels like there's something, and it's the last place you look. You feel
Mm.
like there's something, and you never think that feeling that there is something at all could be a belief.
Mm. And the fact that you're getting frustrated with this line, Bianca, would suggest that it's very relevant for you.
Yes.
I love that.
Thank you, Bianca.
Yeah, it's my way of speaking as if I was a
Yeah, there was
judge
yeah,
announcing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was a
I'm
fuck you
glad.
in that, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm. Okay. Well, we've just hit 3 hours and I'm going to go and cook tea. So if you guys want to continue, you can, but I'm out of here. Yeah.
I haven't heard Dennis speak, and I could listen to him if you've got to go cook tea now.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll leave things going. Yeah, Dennis is and Ramiz might want to say something too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Have a
Thank you,
good
Vince.
No worries.
evening.
I'll be back in a little while.
I want to go to the
Hi
toilet,
everyone.
Dennis.
No problem.
Well, I've come to cook tea. It's only 6 o'clock. Eh? You eaten already? Potatoes and peas and fish. Okay.
All right, what's up, Dennis?
Morning, Tyler.
Morning? Oh,
Oh yeah, where I am it is, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um I actually thought it started at 7, but Vince has said 3 hours, so it must have started at 6 my time. Must change that. I can't really whatever I came on for and whatever was on my mind just got obliterated by your discussion with Bianca. I found that very frustrating.
You found the discussion frustrating?
Very, just wanted to, yeah.
Yeah. Because the mind tries to grasp it, but it can't.
Yeah, it wasn't like I could see you were guiding an inquiry, and I found Bianca's resistance to it very frustrating. Now that's obviously inside me. I'm aware of that. Um, uh, yeah, it's funny when someone else is doing something. It can be so obvious what are our thoughts, and thoughts are very slippery. They can get you all the time. Just one slips in that's totally believed and not questioned, and you're off again. So I was noticing that. But what relevance that has to me is, I don't know. Um, I think the last day you said to me, what if I didn't cope with things? And that really resonated. And um, I don't know, there was just something in it. And that night, actually, I got very tired, very quick towards bedtime and was falling asleep on the couch. Really, really tired. It was like I'd run a marathon that day and I hadn't.
What?
Hundreds of thousands of passwords
So,
hacked
but I still think there's a frustration with this whole thing that
What
I'm
from
not getting
Services
anywhere.
Australia? So,
all over the world. From, I don't know where's from.
Unless we can mute Vince, we're going to hear him have his breakfast.
Oh, he's the king here. I can't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you felt very
He might.
tired quickly.
Yeah, really tired. Like when you said that, it was like I said, I can still remember saying it was lovely. It was an invitation to, approach it differently or not cope, and maybe it was a slight energetic shift or just a noticing. And that's fine. Those are little things, or maybe you would say big things, but we're back to this still not awake, or not experiencing. I
Are
read a
we?
comment under some I read a comment under some video the other night there last night about someone was talking about something and they're saying like, it's not that I'm trying to wake up or something, but I'm sick of the suffering. And when I've been asked before, what do you want? Because I know you mentioned that with Bianca. It's just the answer is always just peace.
You want to stop suffering.
Yeah, that feels like it feels true, and yet I'm aware it's a thought.
Are you aware it's a thought?
The minute I said it, I was aware it's a thought.
Is that true or is that a thought?
That's also a thought.
What's not a thought?
Yeah, this is not a thought.
Okay, stay there. Anything else you need? Have you ever been in this space before?
I'm always in this space. But the tendency is to go back to thought to describe the problem, because being in this space doesn't seem like the solution, and that's all thought.
Well, it's not the solution. It's just that the problem's a thought. Are you afraid of letting go into this space?
This space isn't fearful, but when you say let go into this space, I interpret that to mean just stay as this space and resist when thoughts try to pull you or seem to pull you away from the space or grab your attention into perceived problems.
When you're in this space, what thoughts show up that seem the strongest, that try to pull you away? What thoughts have the strongest pull?
Yeah, you're not awake. If you were awake, something would be different.
How can it be different? What else could there be except for this space and thought?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said because I'm still thinking about what could be different. And what comes up is when, like, the likes of Angelo or other people, Adja, talk about awakening, they say something shifts and you know it's shifted and it never, never goes back. And then you work on other stuff, but you've had an awakening or a Kensho. And so that's the thought that's kind of pulling me out, that
Yes,
hasn't happened yet.
you recognize that that's a thought, right?
Yeah.
It does apply to some people's experience. But as soon as you even start to think about it, you turn it into, you don't turn it into, it already is a thought, and you create a thought about your experience, and then you compare it, which is also a thought again, and then you make the conclusion that that's not my experience, and that's another thought.
So what are they pointing to, Tyler? And is it relevant to me?
Well, they're not pointing to anything. I would say that they're speaking from their own personal experience of how they interpret their own experience and how they hear others interpret their own about what awakening looks like. And because he's perceived in your mind as some sort of authority figure, expert, subject matter expert, you've adopted the belief that your experience should line up with what he describes, otherwise it's not valid. But that's a thought, it's a belief. It's not that he's trying to do that to you. He makes a lot of disclaimers in his videos, but it's inevitable that some people,
Yeah, nothing he says is true.
nothing he says is true. And he gets that, but you don't.
Yeah, no, yeah, I kind of get it, and then I forget about it. Yeah,
Well, you don't forget about it, you just believe other stuff.
yeah.
What if this is it? That's it. It's what the Buddha experienced. What then? Do those questions come up for you? What now?
Okay, come and get it.
I suppose if this was it, and this is it, I mean, this is always it, it's what's on top of it, or the experience. There's an expectation that things will change, that 3D will become 2D, that you'll see through walls. There's so much stuff when you think of all these fetters everyone talks about, and reactivity and your place in the world, and how you. Yeah, I suppose the biggest issue for me is fear, anxiety, and the expectation that they will lessen or dissolve in time when you wake up and you go through certain work and practices and fetters and things like that.
Well, yes, in my experience, fear and anxiety drastically fall as you stop believing in the sources of fear and anxiety. But,
Yeah, I'm listening to them. They're still going.
oh, yeah, but I think you should stop consuming spiritual content, because spirituality is as much of a belief trap as money or religion or
No,
what. You've you probably, other people or maybe yourself, if other people don't know about what you do in your spare time, you probably think of yourself as a pretty spiritual person. You've got all this knowledge about spirituality and awakening. But just because this knowledge is about, or it claims to be about, this space, it doesn't mean that that knowledge is different from any other knowledge.
well, you can hear that, can you?
Yeah. Sorry, Vince is coming in and out there, but yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, Tyler. There's obviously a lot of knowledge around spirituality built up over the years.
It was all for nothing.
Yeah, that doesn't feel true. Like, unless you say, well, everything is all for nothing, which kind of makes it all the same. But
Well, everything is all for everything in the paradigm where you believe that there are things, but none of everything, even spirituality, can touch this space.
yeah, this space doesn't fix anything in life.
This space can be anything. This space is where morals fall away. I honestly would have no qualms about murder if the situation called for it. There's nothing about this space that compels you to act any certain way, or that compels things to be any certain way, because it's infinite.
Yeah, what comes to mind now, as I say that, is that living from this space could be dangerous because it feels safer to live from the constricted, conditioned space of thoughts
Because
in the
it's
mind.
known. Because the world
Yeah,
of thought
exactly.
is
Yeah,
known. Yeah.
yeah.
And this is
It's a big comfortable blanket and pillow to work from. But like you said, this space, and I agree. You know, if violence is required, violence will appear. If love is required, love will appear. You know, whatever is required can appear from this space. It has no restrictions. It's free.
That's a very strong story that can pull people away from this space. It's a story that things will go wrong if I stay here. How am I gonna be a good father if I live in this space? How am I gonna perform at my job and provide for my family if I stay in this space? What if I lose my mind? What if I go psychotic? What if I commit crimes if I'm in this space? All the things you care about, all the things that would be a nightmare for you, they're just your mind resisting being in this space. Because your mind hates this space. It's where your mind isn't.
Yeah, your mind has no place in this space. It's
Yes.
exactly what you said. It's where your mind isn't.
That's why it desperately clings on. It says anything. It knows your weakness. It's so old. It knows everything about you. And it will throw the most horrific shit at you to tempt you to go back. Angelo has talked about this as well. Talks about the time he felt like he was at the edge of something, but he didn't dare to go off because of the immense fear that popped up. He decided the next time that it showed up, he would let go into it. That was his own awakening story, if I remember correctly. He had it in two
Yeah, but what is
phases.
that, Tyler? Like I've had that. I've had that experience a couple of times. This
Mm.
experience of, oh, if I let go, something terrible is going to happen, and I recoil, and then I'm aware of the whole thing, even that I was recoiling, and I'm like, what's aware of everything? It's like a little film running. Again, I know that's a thought, but it's like, oh, something like that has to happen. I have to go through a portal. I have to awaken before I'm awake, and that hasn't happened yet, so I'm not awake. And you're pointing at this space that's it, and I'm like, well, but if that's it, there's nothing to be done.
Yeah. So what that is it's just your mind resisting this space, and it knows how to make you go away. So it'll try different things. Maybe one day it's, oh, how am I gonna stay in this space? I'm not gonna be able to remember where I parked my car, right? And then that's enough to throw you off. The next time you get past that, then they're like, I can't do this. I'm gonna end up murdering my family. And then that gets you off. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How does it know to use what's very sticky? Like, what
Because
intelligence is operating there?
it's operating against itself. It is what you take yourself to be. It's in no way separate from what you take yourself to be. And I'm not saying you, because what you take yourself to be isn't you.
How
But
do we confirm this, Tyler? How do we confirm what you're talking about? This space you say this space. In truth, it's silence, or these are all words to describe here.
We're back
And
in a
I've
little while.
I've agreed with you about here, this space. But how do we make sure we're both talking about the same thing? Can we?
yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
it's again, it's the mind needing to be sure.
Yep.
Can we be sure? So kind of what I've been suspecting for the last couple of months is, dare I say, true. That in this space, you're already awake. This is awakening, what people point to. Did you enjoy breakfast, Vince?
Thank you. It was tea. Thank you. Could you hear me out there? Could you hear the TV?
Could hear a bit of you talking, but not all of it.
Okay. I've got these new shocks here. I didn't think they had a microphone in them, but maybe they do. But anyway, yeah, I'll have to check it out. But I was amazed that I could still hear you guys when I was out there, and it was great following this, what was going on. Yeah.
Are they those ones that work through vibration through the bone, Vince?
Yeah. They're bone conductors. Yeah, they're not actually in the air. Yeah.
Oh, cool. What are they called? Shocks?
Shocks. SHOKZ. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I think I've seen someone wear them.
Yeah, they're good. Very comfortable. I forgot I had them on actually. Yeah.
Sorry, Dennis, my mom came in. So what were
No,
you
it's gone.
saying? Yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, it was like I was confirming that what I've been suspecting for the last while, that when you point to that space, and I recognize that space as being, I have to use words to communicate, like it's like that silence, that ground of being, that home, whatever, that I recognize that. So is that what it means to be awake? Because I was getting really annoyed lately, going, what if I'm already awake and I don't realize it, and I'm chasing awakening, and I could chase awakening till I'm 100.
There's no such thing as being awake.
Well, you need to talk to a few 100,000 people on YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely needs to happen. Yeah. I've got a story that I use when I'm guiding. I'll love to read it if you don't mind. Basically, if I'll just have to find it here. Where is it? Anyway, basically it goes something like this. I'll just tell you off the top of my head. Our physical responses, our physical senses provide us with, well, we won't say information, but an experience, okay? And then we respond to that experience. And then we have a story. We develop a story about the experience we've just had. And that story we respond to, and that gives us another experience. So it's like we wake up in the morning and all day, every day, we go story, experience, story, experience, story, experience. And that's pretty gross because the story is also an experience, but nevertheless, it's stories all the way down. Okay, now if you have a story that you're not awake, you're going to relate to the world in a certain way. And if you've got a story that you are awake, you're going to relate to the world in a different way. Right? So that's not to say that just having the story of being awake is enough, but somebody like yourself, right, will be having the experience of the world as if you're not awake until you accept that you are awake. And then you'll have a different perspective on everything that happens to you. So maybe all you need to do is have a different story, and then you'll be awake.
Or you can also see that there's no awake or not awake, anything. I mean, if I ask someone if they're awake, which would be a really weird thing to ask someone, and they said yes.
They'll say yes.
If they would say yes and they believed in that answer, I would say that that's not an awake person.
you would immediately jump to that conclusion. So anybody that is awake knows that it's a whole lot of bullshit to say that they're awake.
Yeah.
So
Simple.
therefore, I'm not awake because I don't know that.
Right. But if you looked at the world from a perspective of being awake, you would realize that it's not this fucking special magical place that you get the idea of, you know. So when we're a seeker, we think, you know, oh yeah, when I'm awake, I'm going to have all these abilities. Oh, it's bullshit. You're still going to be human. You're still going to be you.
You just won't believe.
Sorry, go on.
Never mind.
Yep. And somehow there's some part of you that says, this is not satisfactory, what I've got. I want something different.
That's just another thought
Of course it is.
pulling me
Absolutely.
away.
Right. And it gives you a shitty experience to have that thought, doesn't it?
It gives something a shitty experience, or it gives it because I can go back here where there's no shitty experience, there just is. But it's like life is lived in the shit, and you want the shit to be less shitty.
Well, that's not awake.
You know, sorry, go ahead.
No, Tyler, the only thing I was going to, like, in life day to day, if I'm being totally honest, like the idea of awakening is becoming less and less of a thing. It's like I just don't want to be anxious and worried to the extent I have been, overly worried, anxious, you know, issues around that, physical issues. We talked about, you know, previous stuff.
Okay, what about this one? Except this paradox exists. Okay, now if you accept the shittiness that's there, it'll go, right? The same stuff will be there, but it won't be shitty anymore. What's the difference? Just your attitude towards it, not the thing itself. Just your attitude towards it. So shit is pretty shitty if you think it's pretty shitty, but if you accept it's just something that's there, it stops being shitty.
And if you tend to avoid the anxiety when you feel it, you should stop avoiding it.
And the other side of that stuff is that when shitty turns up, it's pretty useful. It's a gift. It tells you that there's something to be worked on, especially if you feel that it's shitty. So you can be awake and feel shitty, just like you do now. And instead of going, oh no, I want to get away from it, you go, oh, what's this trying to tell me?
And is it trying to tell me?
Sorry, yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, is it trying to tell me I've just left here again, or I've believed another thought, essentially?
Yeah.
When you feel any negative emotion, ask yourself why you feel it. And if you have an answer, ask yourself if it's true or if it's a thought. And if you recognize that it's a thought, but the shitty feeling is still there, then recognize you can't do anything about the shitty feeling and feel it. And basically that's the entire process of awakening, and you just keep on rinse and repeating that until you're done. I don't know if you can ever be done, but a lot of things get a lot less shitty.
I agree. And if you think that you're shitty because of something going on outside of you, then you're heading down the wrong track. Come back to what is your response to it? What is your reaction to it? That's what it's all about. And they're going to still happen until they don't. If they ever don't, I don't know.
Yeah, wanting things to be different, suffering.
That's where suffering comes from, wanting things to be different.
Why do I want things to be different?
Well, because you think they can be when they
Why
can't.
do I think that?
Well, that's the way we're brought up, isn't it? To think that we've got control and we can make things different. But the thing is, it's that paradox again. The thing is, things can't be different, and as soon as we accept that, they will be different. But they'll never be different while you want them to be different. They'll be worse. They'll be different in that way, maybe, but not likely to go away. Yeah.
Why don't you try this, Dennis? I think I gave this to another British woman the other day. When things are shit and you really don't want them to be shit, and you recognize that that's a thought, but it still affects you and you're still suffering, can use this, just repeat in your mind, I don't want things to be like this, but I can't do anything about it. And just repeat that. And it can get really intense, but it's the fastest way you can accept.
Hey,
And I know
Dennis,
you,
would it? Go on.
no, nothing. It's just I know you like Angelo, and he has a whole playlist of this kind of stuff on his channel, which is called the Equanimity playlist. Okay, Vince, carry on.
I was just going to say, Dennis, would it be a bummer if this was awakening?
Well, if I'm being honest, yeah. Like, I mean,
I love that.
so I won't be honest.
No, be honest, be honest. Well, why do I think it's funny? It's hilarious.
Well, it's funny, like the mind is so prevalent. Like, what straight away comes is memories of not even memories, like echoes in life of being a child and young and feeling freer and more alive and all those kind of things. And the expectation is that that might come back a little bit, or there's so many expectations. I could spend my life coming back to thought, asking questions, and you guys cutting strings here, there, and everywhere. Um,
You remember feeling free when you were a kid?
I can't quite grab it. It's there. There's something there,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
obviously
So,
tells me it's here now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you got this story about when you were a kid and you were free and you were spontaneous and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
You know, what if
Yeah,
none of that?
yeah. None of that's true, Tyler.
Yeah, what if none of that happened even? You know, what if you were actually just born out of like some alien spaceship yesterday and they implanted all these memories into your brain?
You were never a kid.
Yeah,
You were born as you are now. Yeah.
just got here.
Yeah.
Because for all intention purposes, you were never. There was no yesterday. There's only ever now. There's only ever today
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
But I thought you couldn't wake up and it had to happen by itself.
Yeah.
And there's
People say
nothing you
different
can do.
things. Yeah. People say it
Is
happens
that is
by
that just
grace.
talking is that just talking to the ego, the
Yep.
mind, thoughts?
Even wondering that is just that too. That's just more thought. What does it matter? What does it have to do
Uh,
with this?
yeah, true, true. I've one more, and then because this one keeps coming up for me lately, the question of free will versus everything is just happening all by itself. What's your guys' view on that? And I know you're going to say whatever you need to say to me, so I drop it. But what is it? Have we free will, or is it all just automatic? In other words, was I destined to ask this, and you're destined to answer the way you're destined to answer, and there's nothing that can be done about anything? It's just all happening.
Why do you want to know?
Yeah. Um. Part of me feels like the mind wants to know so it can operate from that knowing, which
Will
is
anything
just,
change if you get an answer? Whatever answer is given, are you just gonna adopt that belief?
it feels more like I want to give the mind a rest.
You think that's the last thing it's gonna come up with?
No, but you know, there's sticky things, and you can ask the sticky things. I'm not going to ask you why do you think elephants aren't pink and they're awful grey looking. Like, I just, you can answer that one now. That leave me that. Like, there's certain ones that are rocking around in your head a lot. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, we're back at this again. This is so simple. Just stay there. Why can't I stay there?
Now, listen, the mind is not going to stop the shit that it's been doing all your life. It's going to keep doing it. But it's not like there's a choice, but there is a possibility that you don't have to engage with it. Let it do its shit. Just leave it in the background.
That's really good. That's what it kind of does feel like, leaving it in the background.
I've never had that experience of being here and mind just being in the background. It's either in the foreground or it's quiet.
So,
Well,
does that say anything about how it's going to be?
No.
It's just, we just want to equip you with the ability to cut the strings yourself.
Hmm.
Like you ask that question and or you said that statement and you very automatically believed what was implied, which was that if my experience was not that way before, it's not going to be that way in the future, and that's the correct way for experience to be, and mine won't be valid. So it's just, all you can do is be vigilant, but you can't.
Is there ever certain thoughts you would follow or should follow or pay attention to? Or is it just every thought? That's it. Leave them.
No should, but yeah, there are thoughts. That's it.
you know what? I often find that my thoughts don't lead, they follow. I frequently find I have thoughts about something after it starts to happen, not before.
Yeah, like a narrator who doesn't really know anything
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
world.
yeah. It's almost like a bit of
Yeah,
an
I've
echo.
experienced that,
Yeah.
Vince. Yeah, definitely. I've experienced that. An example I would give was I remember once I was just getting up to go to the toilet, and the thoughts were, "Yeah, I'll go toilet now." But I had already started to go. Like it was catching up with the event. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
And
But
then
it's when
after that
it's,
it'll say, but I chose to do that.
of course, the same way as it's choosing to grow my hair and beat my heart. I know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but it's around family or people's behavior. It's those thoughts that are, or it's not even those thoughts. It's emotion. It's feeling. It's anger, it's navigating all of that. It seems like thoughts are just one part of a bigger picture.
Well, they are just one part, not a very important part, nowhere near as important as we used to think. I put it this way. I say 100% of your thoughts are bullshit, but they can be entertaining. They have a use as entertainment most of the time. I used to think that there was some that were useful, but I haven't found them actually. Because I don't need thoughts to jump out of the road of the bus that's going to run me over. That just happens anyway. Then the thought might turn up, oh, beauty, you got out of the road, but that's just a thought.
I don't know what else you think you need, Dennis. It's pretty cut and dry. You talk about certain things that give you a lot of emotions, and it all comes down to when you feel these intense emotions, just ask yourself why, and you'll definitely find the story behind why you're feeling it. You ask yourself, is it just a thought or is it actually a thing? Then if you can recognize it's just a thought, then you just sit with the feeling. And that's all there is.
Yeah, I know that, Tyler. I actually know that. You said it earlier, and it was like you could write a one-page book on the process. It's like there's a resistance to feeling. Keep myself busy doing things just to sit down and feel is being resisted. I don't know what's resisting it, but it's happening. That it's not, that practice isn't taking place
You're
as
never
much as
gonna,
I'd like it to.
no matter how hard you try, you're never going to get where you want to go by using thoughts. They're incapable of leading you there. And if you like that, every time a thought gets activated, it's going to lead you away from, it's going to lead you down some rabbit hole of its own. Dennis, I feel really strongly that there's only one thing you need now, one thing, and that is to stop trying to figure it out and just be with what is. Whatever life offers you, just be with it. And if it's shitty, be with that. Just and if you don't like the shitty, be with that.
If it's resistance to being with that,
Yeah, keep going, back and back and back. And just remember, every thought is an opinion, and every opinion is a judgment. And it's just what happens.
Yeah.
So next week, I expect you to be fully awakened.
Yeah. Whatever
And
that
when
means,
I
Vince. Yeah.
and when I ask you what that means, you'll say, "Oh, it's all bullshit."
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do it, guys. I'll do my best. That's all I can say. Yeah.
What do you mean, do your best? What that's
I won't say and just shut up.
yeah. It gets like that. It gets like there's nothing you can say. Absolutely nothing. Yeah. And if it gets a bit frightening, this idea that you are awake, just be with that. Don't try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Just be with it. Just let it soak through. Yeah, just get intimate with it. The feeling. That's all.
It seems similar right now to when I was working with the guide, which actually I haven't done for a couple of weeks now. I don't know why. But the sense was, I know there isn't a self, but I still believe there is. And today, now, it's like this place, this being, that it's like, this can't be it.
Mm.
It's a resistance to it. It's like, this can't be it. Like, this is
Mm.
always here. This is nothing. This does nothing for me. Albeit it's the ground of my being, and I wouldn't be if this wasn't this. But regarding that small little thing, this is nothing, and this isn't going to solve my problems.
But you
This
don't
is
have any
some sort of,
problems.
yeah, you're right. Right now I don't, but in a minute I might.
No, you might manufacture something and call it a problem, but you don't have any actual problem.
Yeah.
That place where you've got nowhere to go, there is no escaping it. This is it. You are right where is it.
So when I say, okay, so then I am awake, that's me going back to sleep.
What do you reckon?
No, sorry.
It's just, sorry, I didn't hear you, Tyler. Sorry, it's just me believing another thought, which is I'm back in the rat race again.
Well, but you see yourself believing another thought, so you're not in the rat race. You're watching the rat race.
So yeah, so anytime I open my mouth, I've moved away from,
No, only if you
no.
believe what you say.
Yeah, that makes sense, Tyler. Actually, I'm remembering that I say a lot of stuff that I don't even believe. And when I'm saying it, I don't believe it. I'm like, what the? It's just all coming out of your mouth.
Well, I'd say most people believe everything they say, except when they lie on purpose.
I'm more saying it to see what happens, and does it resonate? Does it stick? Does it get chucked back? I'm like firing it out to see what happens. I don't believe it or not believe it. It's like, even now as I'm talking, I'm aware I don't know where these words are coming from.
What something that struck me big time is that there's a parallel world that exists where there is no language. It's beneath language. It's below language or behind language or something. Language comes. Language. We go up into a fake world. As soon as we use language, we're living in that societal world where everything is fake. Everything is just conceptual. Beneath that or below that, where there are no words, there's, well, I can't explain it, but that's where you need to look. That's a stupid thing to say too, but it's there's experience, but it's the subtle experience, not the gross experience. It's no, there's nothing I can say that makes any sense now. But yeah, but
But you're
see,
pointing to where I am.
yeah.
I hope you see that thinking that you're there is a belief.
Just as thinking you're not there is a belief. Just as thinking
It's not
anything
that
is
I
a belief.
believed it. Not that I believed it, but it was in order to communicate back. Maybe we can communicate by being there and not talking. I don't know.
Have fun with it. There's really nothing to communicate. You can experiment, you can say a whole lot of shit and see if it's true. It'll be pretty funny.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler, for your guiding. Thanks, Vince, for your support.
Whatever. Mm. All right. Well, we'll wind up, eh? Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
You everybody.